Alrighty, YouTube. This is going to be a new person I'm covering on the channel. They came around. I'm not sure um, who they are, what they had success-wise here. They're pretty large subscriber base on YouTube, almost 12,000 subs, but nothing more than about a day or two ago uploading. So either they had a different kind of channel and they grew it to a certain point and decided, nope, I'm going to go on this other topic here and deleted everything behind them, and that explains their 12,000 subs. Um, or it's just something just blew up real quick because a clip from this particular video was making the rounds on Twitter. Now, for people that are burning or bust, this is going to seem, you know, pretty like right on, righteous rage, anger, indignation, everything that's right here, and let's march through here. But the arguments contained within are garbage, and we're going to cover that. Unfortunately, because this is kind of a long, almost 20-minute rant, it's gonna repeat himself quite a bit. He's gonna repeat himself quite a bit. But there's gonna be new topics that he brings up over the course of the video, despite all that repeating. So I'll probably stumble over myself. Well, not stumble over myself, but I'd probably sound repetitive for a bit. And I know that's tough for people watching the YouTube video, but I promise there's stuff coming at the end that's worth catching on. And I'm not going to kind of clip through and try to dig this up. But anyways, yeah, let's get into this.
Let me explain something to you. If you think that I'm going to defend Joe Biden after he bombed my country and I haven't seen my family in 10 years, then you can go and fuck yourself. You are sorely mistaken if you think I'm cutting that guy any slack. I'm not American. I don't owe you shit. I'm not going to vote blue no matter who.
So, right here, yes, the war stuff is a big problem. It's worse, generally, I would say, on the Republican side than it is on the Democrat side. But especially like the Iraq war stuff, that was kind of universal. And to the early 2000s, that's much the war we're still invading here. And, from an American to someone who's not a native-born American, apologies, yeah. Our foreign policy is not the best, and it's awfully pretty bad. It's also pretty bad in a lot of cases, right? I'm not going to deny that. But that's still kind of leaving out a bit of the nuance between how bad it can be and if you can make it a little less bad, right?
Fuck you and fuck Joe Biden and every single neoliberal and every single progressive who's bent the knee. They are all on the same team at the end of the day. What is it going to take for you to wake up?
So I wish you'd learn what a neoliberal is, because neoliberal, doesn't mean bad liberal. Like a lot of people think neoconservative is just bad conservative, right? That's not what it is. Neoliberalism. So I had this chat with Chud Logic on his panel show over in Chud Night. So go check that out. He's got a YouTube thing. I'll link it in the description below if you want to catch it out. Yeah. But neoliberal is somebody who supports a lot of privatization, deregulation. Normally, not into the just deregulate for the sake of deregulation, but in sort of creating more competition, right? Because competition is what protects, in the neoliberal view of things, protects the consumers, the workers, the employers, everything. So right, when they're forced to compete, not forced to compete, but that's going to be the best word, but when they're forced to compete, they, the better results come out and stuff, right? So that's beliefs here. But yeah, Joe Biden's not a neoliberal. Now, he supports, or has in the past supported some neoliberal positions because establishment Democrats, especially coming up through the 70s, 80s, into the 90s, up until about Obama, was a third way position, right? Was to try to find a third way to meet the goals that they had before when Keynesianism was really popular, with the rising popularity of neoliberalism on the right, right? So they're trying to find a compromise position in there, right? So Joe Biden's not technically a neoliberal, even if he in the past had held some neoliberal beliefs, but he's also held other neoliberal beliefs, right? Because he's a third way candidate. It's just, that's what it is. So just stop with the misusing neoliberal. It drives me up the fucking wall.
Enough with this bullshit that Donald Trump is the worst president in modern history. No, he's not. Do you even remember George Bush? Were you even there? Do you remember Donald Rumsfeld, Paul Wolfowitz, Colin Powell, Condoleezza Rice, Dick Cheney? Do you not remember this is Hall of Fame of war criminals?
Yeah, I remember them. And Donald Trump is worse in a lot of respects, right? Like, Donald Trump hasn't ended any of the wars, right? Like, you think he is, so he's not an anti-war candidate. He has not stopped the drone strikes. He's actually increased them. I think it's something like over 50% over the first 2 years of it. And he also removed transparency rules that the Obama administration had put in place. So we don't actually have accurate reporting on the number of civilian casualties from drone strikes like we did under Obama, because Trump threw that out. There's some estimates that with like the over 50% increase in drone strikes from Trump, that we're actually setting records in terms of civilians killed by drone strikes, right? So those are the things that you're gonna harp on, being Obama's a war criminal or Biden's a war criminal over that stuff. I mean, Trump's doing it worse, right? And it sucks to have to say, hey, we're gonna have to pick the guy that's gonna kill less people, right, in their stuff overseas. And yeah, it's really shitty. We got to change that stuff, but that's never going to come in this election. It was never going to come with Bernie Sanders. Some of that stuff was still going to continue, but a lot of people would champion Bernie Sanders because they, believe he's going to get everything that he wanted, which wasn't going to be the case. He was going to have to compromise down on a lot of things. But yeah, it sucks. The war. If you focus just on the war stuff, you can get things bad. But in terms of other things Donald Trump's doing that's god awful in his presidency here, I just covered, last week on here? I covered the Sean Hannity video that he played at his press conference, right? Like, that's literally kind of the crazy stuff that we think about, like state propaganda, state news propaganda, and stuff like that, was being pushed by Donald Trump. The quid pro quo stuff, all these things that he's abuse of power, abuse of office, setting precedents that he's getting away with, that a more competent if you want to say fascist leader that might get elected from the Republicans would, use much better than he is, and be much better at swaying people to allow that shitty stuff to happen, right? In terms of like PR, public perception stuff. Whereas Donald Trump being a big dingus on stage, a lot more people realize that, hey, he's not something that we want there, right?
And Joe Biden was working with them. When George Bush signed the authorization for war, to go to war in Iraq, Biden was standing behind him. Biden was the chair on the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations. He didn't just vote for the Iraq war. He orchestrated it. He shaped the narrative in the Senate. He blocked anti-war testimony. He shut down hearings early so he could go to lunch. He made sure that you went to Iraq. And then he comes along now and says, like, oh, George Bush tricked me. Oh, he did? Well, maybe this president thing, it's not for you, Joe. If you're so gullible and you get tricked so easily, you fucking liar.
Again, yeah, it's a shitty thing, the Iraq war. And if that's all you're focused on is the votes and the support for the Iraq war and some of the other things that he supported, like the Patriot Act and whatnot, it's it's garbage. It's not there. But there's a whole other portion of policy that you're leaving out here, and things that are going to affect any progressive policies that you want to push in the future, right? If Donald Trump ends up reelected, which is why one of the big reasons I support Biden. But there's other reasons in the positive sense, not just as, hey, fuck Trump, I'm going to vote against Trump and vote for Biden, right? So there, one such, things like his platform is more progressive than Obama's was. Like, everybody would, even like Kyle Kulinski and stuff would praise Obama's campaign as being very progressive. But if you go back and look at the policies on that campaign platform compared to what was on policies for Biden's, now, Biden is far more progressive. Now, he's not as progressive as people want, but he is more progressive. So you are getting closer to those progressive ideals that you want. And there's things on this list that are worthwhile to get that Trump isn't ever going to do, and it's going to cause issues, right? Like, Joe's climate plan is better than Bernie's, right? Because Joe embraces nuclear energy, which Bernie does not. And Bernie wants to eliminate fracking. I think he said within the first 100 days. He's made statements like day one he wants to ban fracking. Obviously, he can't do that. I don't think within his powers of executive orders. But fracking right now, even though there are negative environmental consequences and things that we have to fix to make it safer, more things like that, is actually decreasing our CO2 emissions, right? Compared to running like coal and everything else like that, which is much dirtier. And trying to get on 100% like solar, wind, and stuff. Those things don't work year round. There are inefficiencies and stuff there. You need some source of stable power. So if you want to get off of fossil fuels 100%, you're going to have to embrace nuclear energy, which unfortunately a lot of the left doesn't, which is kind of crazy in my mind. But a lot of that stems from other weird conspiracy theories and stuff. But yeah.
You fucking cocksucker, how dare you insult the memory of the million Iraqis that you killed? And all the Syrians that have died too because of the power vacuum you left when you removed Saddam, creating ISIS. You and Obama creating ISIS, funding jihadists.
So, no. Obama and Biden didn't create ISIS. This is Poppy Chuleman. I found him on Twitter. He's been going around like wildfire, Rhett, on Twitter. And so I wanted to respond to this. He has a short clip in here, and he just screams, yells, all this other stuff. But, yeah, it's basically, from the sound of it, he's probably hardcore socialist. And if we want to talk about foreign policy issues in Syria and stuff, for a big socialist like this, Trump abandoned Rojava. No, that wasn't it. No, but yeah, he's saying Obama and Biden created ISIS. ISIS has its roots even pre-Iraq War in 98 under a different name. And after we removed Saddam in 2003, this group worked under Al-Qaeda in the insurgency, right? And then eventually, years later, they rose up as ISIS, right? So this organization had existed before the Iraq War. Now, the Iraq War, creating that power vacuum certainly hurt. And like I said, it's a shitty vote by Biden. You won't get me to deny that. Right, but if your focus is strictly on this and not on the differences that Biden's going to provide, what do I want to say? Locally is not the right word. But within the U.S. instead of outside the U.S., the differences are substantial. And like even outside the U.S., Trump is worse. Like I mentioned a little earlier, Red, I don't know if you caught it, but drone strikes under Trump are increased. I think it's over 50% more than Obama's administration. And Trump got rid of Obama's rule that they would report civilian casualties of drone strikes. And so we don't have an accurate number of how many civilians he killed, but according to some international organizations, it's far more than were killed under Obama, right? So even the bad policies Trump does worse overseas. He may not have brought us into another war, but I don't think we're ever going to declare another war ever going forward, given the way things are structured. We'll just assist in bombing in different places, which, again, shitty stuff, and the things that we bend over for Saudi Arabia for it to trade its oil on the U.S. dollar and, kind of prop up the U.S. dollar in the international market and stuff. Yeah, it's shitty stuff that needs to change. But that wasn't going to change overnight under Sanders either.
Going and chopping off people's heads in Syria. You did that. You leveled my country. I'm not going to cut Joe Biden any slack. Fuck you. This vote blue no matter who, the lesser of two evils, that is so privileged. It is so easy for your white fucking ass to sit there in the United States and talk about that because you're not the one who's going to get drone striked. You're not the one who's going to have a fucking car bomb from ISIS outside your window. You're not the one who's going to have to suffer the consequences of the military-industrial complex. You fucking hack.
All right, like I just said, so he brings up drone strikes. Trump is drone striking more, and according to international agencies that have followed this stuff, he's killing more civilians with it. Now, the car bombs and terrorists in Muslim world, I mean, it's kind of silly to say that without the U.S. there, it wouldn't be happening, right? Like, most of the Muslim terrorist attacks around the world are perpetrated against other Muslims in the Muslim world, right? That stuff's not going away. This is a really silly position, right? But, I mean, he also thinks Obama and Biden created ISIS, when ISIS as an organization existed before the Iraq War, before 9/11 and stuff.
You work in politics, you call yourself a progressive, you're a pundit, and you haven't figured out yet that Washington is a one-party system. You are either really fucking stupid or dishonest. And fuck you in both cases. You're a moron. No one should be listening to anything you say. Your white fucking ass is so privileged, sitting there and lecturing me about how Biden is the lesser of two evils. You call this the...
Again, it's not a one-party state. This is just stupid far-left socialist talking points, right? Like he said earlier, he brought up Biden being a neoliberal. Biden's not a neoliberal, right? He, in the 80s, 90s, and stuff like that, he would be a third-wave Democrat, right? A new Democrat, which was a response, if you don't know, and I've said it earlier for people who are watching here, and I'm repeating myself, I'm talking in live chat. There was, in the 70s, with a lot of the economic instability and all the things that happened, like stagflation and stuff, there was a rise in popularity amongst this new right for neoliberalism, which is, so closely tied with, Milton Friedman. Milton Friedman, 1951, wrote a essay entitled Neoliberalism and Its Prospects that kind of outlined what neoliberal thought was, which is different than the extreme kind of laissez-faire attitude of the Austrian school of economics. So if you think of people like Mises, and which would eventually develop into very much the ANCAP ideology under Murray Rothbard. So it wasn't even quite that. And I would argue now that a lot of the Republicans, instead of being neoliberals, are moving further and further towards that ANCAPistan state, which is kind of concerning, because it just doesn't work. There's no economic backing behind that stuff working the way they think it's going to work to provide all the benefits they think it's going to provide. But yeah, it's not a one-party state. There's a difference here. And I've all said in this video, and I'm going to repeat myself, and we're only about 2.5 minutes in. I'm going to do that quite a lot. Biden's platform is more progressive than Obama's was when Obama was running in 2008 and championed as a progressive, right? So just because progressives have gotten even further to the left than they were in 2008 doesn't necessarily mean that Biden's platform isn't still progressive and what it's advocating for. You $15 minimum wage, free 2-year college for everybody, and he recently added free 4-year college for families making less than $125,000 a year. So it's not everything we want out of it in terms of platform. And his health platform is to continue to build on the ACA, cover more, move closer to universal health care, right? It's not as wide-ranging as we'd want with like Medicare for all, but it's still moving us in that direction, right? And the Republicans don't want that at all. They actually want to get rid of it, right? It's kind of ridiculous to say it's a one-party state on these issues, right? But there's a reason he starts with the war issues and what we do overseas, which again, admittedly, there's a lot of shit and a lot of things we got to change, but that wasn't going to change overnight under Sanders, right? And people like Trump are still doing it worse than what Obama and Biden were, right? As much as, those are issues, but yeah.
The lesser of two evils? Huh? Iraqi children getting their fucking legs blown off by cluster bombs? You call this the lesser of two evils? Deporting 3 million Latinos? You call this the lesser of...
All right, so on the deportation stuff. So, Obama administration... by the stats, deported, quote unquote, more Latinos and stuff than any other administration. But the issue that comes up is a different issue in reporting of stats, right? So for the Obama administration, and this was put in kind of near the end of the Bush administration, so it starts to change there. But if you're caught, within the border, you're newly crossed, and you're just caught there, they would send you out. Right, in the past, right? So that wasn't before, like the latter half of the Bush administration, wasn't considered deportation, an official deportation, right? And so if you look under the Obama administration for that big 2 to 3 million number, which covers there, but you look at his year to year, it's like 2/3 of that are literally people that within 100 miles of the border, just recently got across the border and then were shipped out, right? Those are the deportations. That's not the traditional definitions of the deportations, right? So there's a lot lost from these previous administrations that just weren't counted. Just like how I said earlier, Trump has gotten rid of the rules that count civilian casualties of drone strikes, even though it wasn't as transparent as it should have been in terms of what they decide. Under the Obama administration, should have been more transparent on civilian casualties, but how they ranked and stated, it was something. That's gone away, so now it doesn't look like he's killing civilians with drone strikes when that's just not the case. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you on that. It's, it's a reporting thing, and what they decided to calculate as, a deportation has changed, which means Obama did it more. But at least before Trump, I haven't seen Trump's numbers. I'll have to look at that. I imagine Trump's are higher than Obama's. Not the total, because obviously, Obama was in office for 8 years for that 3 million, whereas Trump, we're only, coming up on his 4th year, finishing up his 4th year.
Two evils, leveling historical sites in Syria, propping up ISIS. That's the lesser of two evils.
Wait. The Obama administration didn't prop up ISIS. So this story comes from a program that when they were training Syrian rebels, that the weapons and stuff that they were giving to these Syrian rebels to fight and train with, were then acquired by ISIS. Right? So that wasn't the U.S. intentionally trying to equip ISIS, right, and train ISIS or support ISIS. That's what they were doing, right? It just happened that the rebels that they allied with at the time, kind of turned it over to ISIS, right? Which is a failing on our intelligence agencies for not realizing that would happen. Maybe he doesn't in this video, but maybe he believes that, that was intentional. We're going to give it to ISIS and we're going to prolong this war. Which, I mean, it's going to take a hell of a lot of evidence to back up.
How fucking ignorant you are. What a cocksucker. What a lame fucking excuse for a pundit. You're not a pundit. You're a fucking mouthpiece for the neoliberal establishment. Fuck you. And
all right, quit misusing neoliberal. Establishment Democrats are not neoliberals, and they've been moving further and further towards the progressives since Obama, right? The Democratic Leadership Council, which was formed in the mid-'80s to kind of push this third way movement in the Democratic Party more, dissolved under Obama's administration, right? And like the Progressive Caucus has gotten larger. Most moderate Democrats now support a $15 minimum wage nationally, which is minimum wage is 100% against neoliberalism. Neoliberals do not like minimum wage laws. They're fine with providing a basic income, so like Milton Friedman proposed a negative income tax, which would, if we set it up, say we set it quick and do math, $30,000 a year is no federal income tax up to that point. And you would get 50% the difference between what you made in the year and that $30,000 if you're below it, right? So if I made nothing, the government would pay me $15,000 a year, right? And if I made $10,000, the government would pay me $10,000 and I'd make $20,000 a year, right? And so they prefer that kind of basic income stuff towards minimum wage, which they argue squeezes workers out of the workforce that would work and would do things, because some jobs just aren't worth paying so much for in their schema, in their framework, right? So that is something that is 100% against neoliberal ideology.
fuck Biden. They're all the same. They're all part of the club. They're all Wall Street's bitches. They're all on Wall Street's payroll. They all work for the same fucking people. You work in politics and you haven't figured out the U.S. is a one-party state? Wow, you are really, really fucking dumb, and you don't belong anywhere near politics. Go.
I mean, this position is really dumb and shows you really shouldn't belong in politics. I know he's he's some form of socialist or communist, right? So he's really far left, and so these little minor distinctions probably don't hold it here. But I mean, I know plenty of other socialists and stuff around on the Twitch universe that realize, yeah, there is a difference, and there's pretty significant difference between the parties. But I mean, this is really childish, naive, doesn't, and certainly doesn't back it up. It's just, it's a feel good thing to feel like, yeah, I'm not voting for Biden, so there's no difference, right? He'll bring up the kind of hand wave away some of the differences and stuff here coming up.
Do some other shit, because this ain't for you, motherfucker. What an ignorant fucking thing to say. What a simplistic, privileged assessment. Joe Biden is the lesser of two evils. Have you even seen pictures of Iraqi children? What happened to them? Have you ever looked at a gallery of that? Go right now, go right this fucking second on Google. Pause this video, go on Google, and look at pictures of Iraqi children maimed by cluster bombs. You're gonna justify that? You're gonna sit there and justify that war criminal shit to me, you fucking cocksucker? How?
All right, so this is someone being dumb who doesn't understand the lesser two evils, right? Just because, yes, these things are bad. These things that we would, killing civilians and stuff in a war and all this other stuff is bad, is evil, and stuff like that. That doesn't mean that there isn't a difference between how much worse it could get on those things. But again, he's focusing 100% at this point. So I don't know if everybody's watched this video doing YouTube content creation. I very rarely get, but I do these longer ones where I ramble a bit more. So I understand, so I get about a third of that. But even if half the video, so we're about a quarter of the way through the video now, he's lost probably a third of the viewers, even if they agree with them, right? Running through. It's like, yeah, fuck this guy. I'll see it. But it's all the war stuff. Like I said, the war stuff needs to change. The war stuff is bad. But it's not all going to change under Sanders' administrations, right? Sanders still supports drone strikes. He still supports some form of military intervention in some aspects. So he's not a complete non-interventionist. So some of these things he's talking about here that are evil and then thus make Biden not the lesser of evil, two evils, would still be things done under the Sanders administration. Would happen, even if they're not intentional. All right? But then this also leaves out that Trump does it worse, right? Like I said, the drone strikes, like he wants to bring all this stuff up with different bombs and drone strikes like that. Trump's doing more of them. He's killing more civilians. It's, what do you want me to tell you? Killing less civilians is better than killing more civilians. And that's the lesser of two evils, right? That's the less worse option, right? It sucks that you got to choose between those two options, but I mean, that is factually the less worse option.
How fucking dare you? How fucking dare you? You are the problem. You are part of the problem. And then you're going to use your platform to brainwash other people? What the fuck is wrong with you? You're going to defend that fucking rapist, that war criminal, that fucking segregationist? You're going to defend a segregationist? Hey, you got no fucking shame? What is wrong with you? Where's your moral compass? You ain't got no fucking standards, and you call yourself a progressive?
I mean, I do have standards, and we're not, I'm not saying everybody's not ignoring the rape allegations and some of the icy stuff Biden has done in his past, but I'm not defending those things by saying, hey, voting for Biden is going to get us closer to the progressive policies that we want, because his platform is more progressive than Obama's, and it was more progressive than Clinton's in 2016. A lot of that credit goes to the influence of Sanders. Now, people all argue, and when I get to these secular talk videos after this, that, I just don't believe he's going to do it. He's just saying it, and he's just lying. He's not going to try to accomplish any of that stuff. And it's like, even if Bernie, looking at Bernie's platform, and you want Medicare for all, as Bernie wanted, was never going to happen, right? And I knew that when I voted for him. And I kind of figured the first things that would go right off the list would be like vision and dental. That'd be thrown out right away. Probably the hearing aid stuff too. And then those things would be negotiated back. Even though, maybe we should provide more of those to people to get the universal coverage, and it'd be more effective in terms of what we pay to get to those things. They weren't going to make it through there. And maybe it's possible that Medicare for all, in terms, single payer across the board, still wouldn't have made it. We still would have ended up with a public option similar to what Biden's presenting.
Biden isn't even a neoliberal. He's a fucking Republican.
Again, jackass doesn't understand what a neoliberal is. Bugs the shit out of me. And to say Biden's a Republican is, not the case.
Have you lost your fucking minds? And AOC and Bernie Sanders also throwing away all of their leverage? Yeah, fuck it. Fuck it. Who needs Medicare for all? The 68,000 people dying a year? Who gives a shit, man? You can go bankrupt. I don't care. Joe Biden lowered the eligibility age from 65 to 60. You should be happy with this olive branch.
Again, there's more to his health policy than just lowering the Medicare age from 60 to 65, or 65 to 60. Right? So there's other things he provided, which would, according to some estimates, cover 17 million more people than what are covered now. So that 68,000 number would decrease. We would improve upon that, right? So this is the argument being made in the lesser of two evils. But so just saying, the total now are bad, and there's no difference between Trump's policy and Biden's policy in terms of healthcare, wouldn't improve that number, right? And argue it's just dumb. It would. It literally would. 17 million people. It doesn't cover everybody like the Sanders plan, unfortunately. And I wish there'd be more concessions towards covering more people. But it's still a step in the right direction. I know people just don't like incrementalism in any sense. I prefer things happen a bit more quickly, but our system is not set up to move that quickly.
Go and fuck yourself. How demeaning, how demoralizing. What a way to denigrate the struggles of people. This fucking cocksucker who wrote the crime bill, mass incarcerating Latinos and blacks, you're gonna defend that shit? How fucking dare you, you motherfucker?
I mean, you're supporting Sanders. Sanders voted for the crime bill, right? As much as the crime bill is an issue. I mean, with fracking and stuff, we make more of our oil domestically than we get from imports in terms of energy use. But I mean, it's always going to be that way, even under Sanders, right? Because we want the Saudis and the Middle East to trade their oil on the dollar, right? It helps prop up the dollar. So we're always going to be involved over there, right? Even with the Sanders presidency, even with, in 4 years, if God forbid Trump wins. But I mean, God forbid, I'm an atheist, so I don't believe it's just a turn of phrase, but God forbid Trump wins again, and say we run AOC as a progressive in 4 years. And Democrats finally say, all right, we need a progressive, right? Much more than someone like Biden, who's more moderate. These things aren't going away under an AOC presidency in 4 years. Or 8 years if Biden wins and Biden goes 2 terms.
Under Bush, this guy orchestrated the Iraq War, and then when he was vice president, he helped Obama destroy Syria, destroy Libya, destroy Somalia, destroy Yemen, prosecuting journalists. Do you know Obama and Biden prosecuted more journalists with the 1917 Espionage Act than any other administration combined?
So they weren't... Well, we're moving in a progressive direction, right? Since the Obama election, the progressive movement has gotten bigger. The third wave movement has started to, march along with the progressives as we move further towards that stuff. So it is happening. It's not happening as fast as a lot of the uber progressive pundits and people online want it to happen. But it is happening. It is moving that way. So we still should stick strong. And part of our strategy should be getting more progressives in from the Democratic Party. Yeah, I don't know how you think Pelosi's pushing Congress further right. it has not happened, right? The Democratic Party has been moving slowly more progressive since Obama, right? It's a fact. Like the big third way Democratic Leadership Council folded. That was big push for the third way movement between the rise of neoliberalism on the right in the 80s and into the 90s and stuff like that to where we are now, right?
Find. Why don't you learn your fucking history instead of tweeting this bullshit about the Supreme Court picks and voting down the ballot? Fuck off, man. We've seen this film before. We know the script. These motherfuckers are all buddies. They go golfing together.
See, this is really dumb, right? So what he leaves out of here, the Trump administration, in terms of, has packed plenty of the lower courts, like faster and harder than anything we could do with conservative judges that are going to block your progressive platform if you get it in 4 years' time or in 8 years' time in there. And in the Supreme Court, when it becomes an overwhelming conservative majority under Trump in this next term, likely we're fucked in terms of getting this stuff done. Yeah. But I mean, it's so brushing away these other things is, oh, it's just the same. It doesn't matter. So, you're looking at 20 to 30 years of conservative rule over those courts, which fucks any kind of progressive policy that you want to push forward, right? That's just a fact going forward, right? Trump's not going to pick like some moderate that might sometimes side on liberal issues and stuff, or even a conservative that might eventually lean things like Kennedy did. Right? Kennedy's been kind of an important vote in some of the Supreme Court decisions. Well, how don't they stop the conservative courts, right? I don't know what definitions you're using here and what kind of things here. If you got links, send them to me.
Go eat brunch together. They're all on the same fucking team. Look how they voted on the stimulus package. Not one fucking person voted against it. And this bitch AOC comes along 2 weeks later and says like, oh yeah, I totally, I couldn't support it. And I voted no after she saw the backlash for her bullshit. Progressive coming out and stumping for Joe Biden. Oh, she also signed a loyalty pledge. You also gonna make excuses for her? Go and fuck yourself. You're pathetic. You ain't got no shame. You sold your fucking self to these people who consider you vermin. They look down on you.
All right. Oh, yep. Fuck Jimmy Dore. Nope. I am not going to take and watch a Jimmy Dore thing and listen to what he has to say on it. Jimmy Dore is Alex Jones of the left, right? He is not worth taking opinions on it, right? It's bad, And I speak as someone who used to like Jimmy Dore years ago. But yeah, he has gotten full-blown Alex Jones of the left. No, Jimmy Dore is not accurate. No, he doesn't. He's not accurate. He runs his own opinions. I've watched a lot of the Jimmy Dore stuff. I'm not gonna run by. If you got a source, I'll look at the sources in here after I do this video. But yeah, I'm a big fuck Jimmy Dore, right? In terms of his positions. Shit. What was his big thing that he was complaining about here? Let's go back.
Jumping for Joe Biden. Oh, she also signed a loyalty pledge. You also gonna make excuses for her? Go and fuck yourself.
So the stimulus package, right? That has helped. There's been a lot of misunderstanding in terms of it, but it's like, oh, it's just crumbs to people and stuff like that. They've covered 100% of wages, even more in some cases with that extra $600 a week. I know there was a tweet going around that showed a clip of Mnuchin talking about the stimulus check. And people are treating like, oh, the 10 weeks or 12 weeks or something like that. He's expecting just like the single $1,200 a month to send that way. It's like, no, he said the entire package, right? Be fair in the criticism. He said the entire package, which includes, $600 a week in additional unemployment benefits. I got laid off, so I'm making basically the same as I was when I was working, right? My pay hasn't changed because of that stimulus bill. But he's going to complain that the loans given out to businesses are way too high and all this other stuff. It's like, this is probably one of the cases where you look at for a lot of businesses that it's not necessarily their fault, that the economy's in the situation it is because, you know, a pandemic like this doesn't happen very often. You know, it's as bad as like you know, previous things like avian flu and swine flu and stuff that hit us hard were nothing like what we're experiencing right now with the COVID-19. No, I don't support the neocons, right? At all. I'm not a neocon. I'm pretty anti-war, but I understand that even the most progressive of progressive candidates is still going to be involved in the American empire and propping that up still, right? Sanders is still going to do that. That's not going to change. It's going to be less worse than under Obama and Biden, but it's also going to be less worse than it is under the neocons and the Republicans in general that want all the wars, right? It's not fighting that only.
You're pathetic. You ain't got no shame. You sold your fucking self to these people who consider you vermin. They look down on you. What a moron. What a moron. We've seen this movie before. One administration goes out, the next corrupt administration comes in. It's always the same shit. Bomb the Middle East, fuck the working class, fucking people of color, making sure they stay oppressed. It's the same fucking shit over and over. They disrespect you so much that Joe Biden's platform doesn't even have one fucking policy from Bernie Sanders. And Bernie and AOC just threw away their leverage, threw away their movement. They fell in line like a bunch of ducks.
That's fucking bullshit, right? I mean, that is a flat out lie in terms of it. Let me pull up the scuffed Darios. But like I said, $15 minimum wage is on Biden's platform. Let's see if I can pull up that tweet. I don't have it saved. So there is the correctness yet? No. So let me pull this over so people can see this still again. I did this in my last video. But $15 minimum wage on Sanders' platform is on Biden's platform. Right? Paid family leave is on Sanders' platform and Biden's platform. Biden's isn't quite as generous as Sanders is, and you can make that complaint there. Citizens United both want it overturned. Abolish the death penalty, yes. Cocaine prison sentences, remove disparity. Eliminate mandatory minimums, both of them are yes. Eliminate private prisons, both of them are yes. Now, not all this stuff is going to get done, but you go down this list and the comparisons to Sanders' platform and Biden's platform, there's a lot of stuff that's on that platform that's there. So he's just flat out lying about this to try to play Biden up as worse than now. Someone might argue, yeah, sure, right? They're not going to get everything passed. Like, all this stuff on here that you love about Sanders isn't going to get all passed, and it's not all going to get passed in the form that we want it in, right? Or that he wants it in, right? It's just not going to happen. The political capital is just not there to get all that stuff done. Again, I'm not denying the war stuff, but like the drone strikes under Trump have gone up. And because he's cut reporting, we don't actually have exact numbers on civilians' deaths. Like we do, well, they're not quite exact under Obama and Biden because it didn't count every civilian killed by a drone strike. But it was better that transparency than what we got out of, or that we're getting out of Trump's administration at this point. My title, is it ironic? No. I'm supporting Biden now that Sanders is out, right? I don't particularly like Biden. I like Sanders, right? Even though there's plenty of things about Sanders I don't like. And I think in some issues, especially the climate change plan, Biden is better than Sanders. So if you care about climate change, Biden's got the better proposal.
And now you also want to follow. You fucking sheep. And you call yourself a fucking political pundit? What a moron. What a fucking dumbass. Pathetic mouthpiece you are. The Supreme Court pick. Oh yeah, because you give such a shit. Remember when they were appointing Kavanaugh, everybody was up in arms about how he's a rapist? Oh, but when Joe Biden, who's running for president, the highest office in the country, the most important job on the fucking planet, when he's interviewing for that job, oh, it's okay. It's okay that he's a rapist. We're going to bury the rape allegations. When he was running in 1987.
So, the rape allegations against Biden should be investigated, right? Just the same as they should have been against Kavanaugh, right? So we should get an investigation. All that stuff should be taken seriously. I agree with it. I'm not defending or wiping out here, but this is a shitty, fallacious argument to kind of pivot away from the argument of the Supreme Court picks, right? Just because Kavanaugh was a rapist, and then, the allegations against Joe Biden probably make him a rapist too if they turn out to be true, doesn't mean anything against that argument, like, at all, right? Kavanaugh's going to vote conservative stuff, so if you care about things like Roe v. Wade, right, the Supreme Court's going to matter. I mean, the Republicans are pushing it, and with the stacking of the conservative judges on the lower level courts, you're going to see more challenges to that come to a more conservative Supreme Court. And if it gets even to a larger majority where a lot of that stuff is safe, you're going to see a lot of that accepted. It's just the case here, right? So that's one of the reasons, and it's going to fuck you for the next 20 to 30 years until you could get new judges on the Supreme Court, right? So any progressive platform that a progressive candidate that wins in 4 years from now, 8 years from now, is going to be stopped every step of the way through the courts, right? And that's what you're going to give up by saying, don't vote for Biden. At least in a swing state. And if you're not in a swing state, you can vote pretty much for whoever you want, whether it's deep red, deep blue. Preferably you get out there and vote Democrat down ballot, because if you want the progressive stuff on Biden's platform to pass, you're going to need more Democrats in Congress than you are Republicans. It's just a fact.
He had to drop out because of plagiarism. He plagiarized some speeches. But now that he's a rapist, when those allegations come out, oh yeah, fuck it. Who gives a shit? Are you fucking nuts? Have you lost it? Even Bernie Sanders and AOC only spoke about Tara Reade after the campaign was suspended. And only spoke about it when they were asked about it. They didn't come and speak out. I was speaking out. Other progressives were speaking out. Where were the progressive leaders?
Well, I mean, the Green Party is a greater evil. Green Party is fucking garbage if you're voting Green Party, right? And this is somebody who has voted Green in the past, coming from someone who's voted Green in the past. Their platform is not all that great. It sounds nice, but it's, not a very good platform. Especially their environmentalist stuff is garbage. Their opposition to nuclear power and stuff is just garbage. Right? And that's the only way you get 100% off fossil fuels is with nuclear. I know a lot on the left don't like it.
Who are supposed to lead by fucking example. Huh? Oh, as usual, too scared to rock the boat, falling in line like sheep. How fucking pathetic you are, and you just come and kiss their asses. Whatever they ask of you, you do it. You are so fucking pathetic. Joe Biden, the lesser of two evils. What a fucking privileged thing to say. Only a white person who is not affected by this election or any other election would say such a thing. Only a white person could say that. Only someone who's never been affected by the crime bill.
How about all the African Americans that supported Biden, right? Like, what is this bullshit, right? Sanders did not make the inroads with the African American community that he needed to win the primary. But, I mean, it's shitty. It's like, it's only white people are the lesser two evils and stuff. It's like, you don't think African Americans in the South, who are really at risk of some of these Republican governments, local level, state and stuff, aren't going to want, don't see this as hey, even if Biden's not everything we want, he's better than what, if we vote down Democrats and do all this stuff, is better than what we're going to get with the Republicans in our own state, right? And voter suppression and all this other shit. So it's really stupid. Yeah, joking. What was the 50% POC vote over Super Tuesday? Well, I mean, Super Tuesday was a lot of northern states too. I wanna see. Give me the link to the polls and stuff, because generally overall, Biden won the most support among POs, unless you're including Latinx people in there, which you probably are if you're just using POC. Yeah, and I followed Super Tuesday too, but I'm talking specifically like in terms of one group right here that voted pretty overwhelmingly for Biden over the other candidates. then Bernie failed in 4 years to make inroads into that demographic.
Never gone to jail, who's never had to worry about their family being bombed in the Middle East. Only a fucking moron could say that. And they act like woke. Oh, well, the Supreme Court and, voting down the ballot. Fuck you, man. Democrats had multiple administrations. Republicans had multiple administrations. This has been going on for hundreds of years. Where's that change? Where's the minimum wage that hasn't been raised in 40 years to adjust for inflation? Where's the fucking action on climate change? This cocksucker wants to get to 100.
No, that's not what I'm saying, one group, right? I brought up one group specifically, right, in an argument, right? And then going, well, if you throw in these other groups, it's not here. But like Southern African Americans did not support Bernie, right? And there's reasons they supported Biden over Bernie, right? They feel that they're the support of Biden, and especially the support of the Democratic candidates down there, if they do that, that has a better chance than the Republicans winning, right? They're making strategic votes in there, even if Bernie would be better, like 100% across the board, better than Biden for them. Again, send me links to this, right? We're not, again, I don't know why you want to ignore some of these, try to change the argument against it. I do consider them all, you jackass, right?
100% renewable energy by 2050? Motherfucker, there ain't going to be no planet by 2050. What the fuck are you talking about? How do you tolerate?
I mean, this is a shithead who doesn't follow the science or anything like that, or even look at the climate plan. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. This is the kind of the stupidity among the left when it comes to the science on climate change and stuff like that, right? If you want a good understanding of the actual science and some of the arguments put against here, I'll always recommend Potholer 54. He's a I think he's retired now, but he's a science journalist who follows and reads all these studies, reports on it, does all this stuff, fact checks on this, and puts together pretty good videos on the actual science of things. Even claims, like AOC has made, the hyperbolic claims of that come with some of the predictions and projections, right? He'll go and debunk those as well as he'll debunk all the stuff on the right. Right, so he's pretty strict to what the science actually tells us, right? What am I gonna get? I paid off bills with mine, paying down debt, my stuff. But no, I mean, Biden supports nuclear, and if you want to get off fossil fuels, you need nuclear. Bernie does not support that. Bernie wants to ban fracking right away, even though fracking lowers our CO2 emissions. There are other environmental issues with fracking that need to be fixed and regulated, right? So we can do that. But fracking, like I said, is a big reason why we've been lowering our CO2 emissions even under Trump's administration, right? Not as fast as, say, like Europe has, but Europe includes, especially the places that are decreasing their CO2 emissions faster than the U.S., support nuclear, right? That's something that's going to be in there, and wanting to get rid of that and then wanting to ban something that already lowering CO2 emissions, what are you left with to getting to, right? Going on to some technology that's unreliable and spending trillions of dollars to try to get that set up, right? Like, it's not reliable year-round. It's not reliable in every geographic location for some of these 100% renewables, right?
Tolerate this shit? Why are you advocating for this bullshit? Why are you saying that this guy is a viable option? He's not. There should be no idea of lesser of two evils. You shouldn't be voting for evil. If you're voting for the lesser of two evils, that means the evil is already won. And this guy was already vice president. And what did he do when he was vice president? What did Obama and Biden do when they had both houses? They had control over the House and the Senate. What the fuck did they accomplish? Where's the action on the prison industrial complex? Where's the action on police shootings? Why are black people still be fucking shot and locked up in jail? Huh? What's up with that? Why did Obama start the Muslim ban? Oh yeah, I bet you didn't know that. You think Trump started it. No.
Obama did not start the Muslim ban. As for the other stuff, like the ACA was an improvement, right? I don't know why the left is already denying this year, that the ACA was a step in the right direction, right? It's not as much as we wanted. It's not anything there. Now the left is basically, give us this expansive Medicare for all that is far more generous than anything else in the rest of the world that we want to compare it to in terms of what it gives out, right? And that's the standard of what we get. Fuck anything else. When before the progressive thing was, hey, let's get to universal coverage, and there's a mix of ways we can get to universal coverage where everybody's covered, everybody has access to affordable health care, right? It doesn't have to be this expansive Medicare for all, but the ACA was a step in the right direction. It's one of the main policy platforms. There was some work, especially in the second term of Obama, in getting nonviolent drug offenders out of prison. Difference between Obama and Trump in terms of their position, or Obama and any other Republican, is lax enforcement on marijuana, right? So while he didn't legalize it nationwide, his lax enforcement has allowed states to legalize and do as they please, and we're starting to get legal marijuana around. That's a threat. That was a threat, or considered a threat under Sessions. It hasn't happened the way we thought it was going to be, but that's a good thing. But the Muslim ban, no, Obama never instituted a Muslim ban, right? So this comes from, and this is here. This is a lefty. This is the socialist and all this other stuff that's basically using Trump's talking point to argue against, better conditions. But no, the Muslim ban. So what happened in 2011? There's the visa waiver program, which is, you can go without a visa and visit the U.S. for 90 days, right? Without access to a visa. And there's some other things like special visa provisions to help get people who help the U.S. out of the Middle East and stuff there. That's slowed, but part of it was because in 2011, there was two, I think, individuals that were connected to terrorist or terrorist cells that made it past the screening process. So they slowed that down in 2011, and in 2015 they introduced what was the name of the act? I forget the name of the act, but there was an act that ramped up the screening process and things like that. And on this list, it took away the visa waiver program from 7 states, and these are the 7 states that end up with a Muslim ban. But that didn't mean that people couldn't come to the U.S. They weren't banned. They just had to go through the visa process now to come over, instead of just hopping on a plane with their passport coming into the country that way. So it wasn't a ban. Travel still happened, and if you needed to get in a hurry, there was expedited services through U.S. embassies in those nations, right? So if there was some reason you had to get there in a hurry and the visa process for your travel or whatever couldn't get through, you could go to the embassy and do that stuff. So it was never a ban, like the Muslim ban is, and he's pushing here. But I mean, this is him pushing, a right-wing talking point, big conservative Republican talking point, to argue that the parties are the same. When you look at the facts of the matter, it's not the case.
Motherfucker, Obama did that. Obama, go and fucking do your research, you pundit. You
I've done my research, and that's why I know it's not. A
fucking smartass.
I'm talking about, you could say those things about Obama. That's not saying that those are right-wing. This is you being disingenuous about what I'm saying, right? So I'm talking specifically things like the Muslim ban. Saying Obama instituted the Muslim ban is factually incorrect. It is a Republican talking point to justify Trump's Muslim ban, right? That actually banned travel, right? That's the right-wing Republican talking point I'm talking about.
The lesser of two evils. You seen that fucking evil? You see what's happening in Syria? Have you seen what's happening in Iraq? Of course you haven't, because you don't want to face the truth. You're too scared.
All right, so here's a socialist thing. I think I mentioned it a little earlier. How about Trump abandoning Rojava, right, and letting the Turks fucking bomb the shit out of them, right? The Turks do what you want, right? Would that have happened under Biden, right? Is that better? That you wouldn't throw your allies in Rojava out to the fucking wolves, the Turks and stuff like that, to do that? I mean, would that be better? Like, objectively speaking, in your worldview for social, is that better? Standing behind our allies and not letting them be bombed by Turkey. Yeah, the civilian deaths are shitty. Nobody's arguing that what we're doing over there isn't shitty and needs to improve, right? But it's better than what we have under Trump. It's going to be better than that, right? It's still going to be bad, and that's what this argument is. That's why I brought up the Rojava thing, right? If you care about the international socialist movement and stuff like that, and you're fine with Trump winning, and when Trump let Rojava get bombed, by the Turks. I mean, what the fuck do you want?
You'll never go and look at that. Have you seen the pictures from Abu Ghraib? Have you seen what happened in Iraq? Do you even care about the history, the human history that's been destroyed in Syria and Iraq? Never mind what's going on in Yemen and what happened to Libya. You don't give a fuck. You don't give a shit. You are Anglo-centric. You think America is the center of the world. You think that this piece of shit that you elect to the Oval Office has no effect on the rest of the planet. Well, guess what, buddy? He fucking does.
I mean, nobody's argued that the war stuff isn't going to have an effect on the rest of the planet, right? That's not the argument with lesser two evils. Is it going to be less bad? Is it going to be better than under Trump? So even if it's bad, and I don't get this on a lot of, he's going to bring up like Maduro and other things like that. Leftist things that have done shitty things in those countries, but he's going to defend them and say it's bad. Just it's going to get into come up later, but it's just this is the shit argument he's making.
It's had a big effect on me. Had a big effect on my family. Gaslight me, motherfucker. I dare you. Come and gaslight me.
I mean, my job's at risk with the shitty economics, right? I'm a white guy. I make good money. I'm unemployment right now because of the COVID stuff. But the economy that Trump has, the things Trump has done since he's been in office to the economy, inflating bubbles and stuff like that, that we might, that are, what do I want to say? That burst larger or burst worse because of COVID than probably they would have this year. We probably would have been just in a recession where, we might still fall into a depression over this. That affects me, right? I don't want Trump in office for a depression, right? Even if there's going to be economic recessions under Biden, right? That's going to be less worse for people that way, right? It's just, this is not thinking on any of the facts, right?
How you going to justify that shit? Funding jihadists? You're going to justify this fucking cocksucker Obama and this fucking cocksucker Biden funding terrorists? Have you lost your fucking mind, asshole? Have you...
What terrorists... So he's saying this is ISIS, right? So he's argued earlier that Obama and Biden created ISIS. No. ISIS emerged out of another organization that formed in 98. So even before we got into Iraq. And he's arguing that Obama and Biden funded ISIS. It's not true, right? So some of the training program with the rebels in Syria resulted in those weapons and stuff being turned over to ISIS from those groups, right? And so, yes, that's a failure of the administration. That's a failure of the CIA. But that's not them funding ISIS. That's them not funding terrorists in that way, right? So this is him fucking lying again.
You lost it. You're defending terrorism. Fuck you. And fuck everybody who defends Joe Biden and endorses him and parrots this bullshit party line of vote blue no matter who or lesser of two evils. They're all evil. They're all part of the same club. And you're a fucking moron and you shouldn't be working in politics. Go fuck yourself. The Obama administration and Joe Biden, they encouraged the building of those pipelines. They screwed over all the protesters. They knocked down the Occupy movement. They bailed out Wall Street. You already had a government with Biden. What did he do? What did he achieve except ramping up the wars, killing more people, deporting more people, doing nothing about mass...
So, again, the Obama administration did not deport more people than previous administrations, right? That had declined. It's just the reporting of what counts as a deportation changed, right? Where deportations before, about the latter half of the Bush administration, were reported much more. There's a much more strict criteria of what counted as a deportation. And so that got left out of those official numbers. And, latter half of Bush into the Obama administration, this new definition meant the stat sheet said more deportations, right? And just not the case based on all the information, right? So that's wrong. So he deported less people than other administrations. We just don't have the full numbers because we weren't counting the same types of deportations, right? Or saying deportation was the same things, right? Fuck, what else did he say?
Pipelines. They screwed over all the protesters. They knocked down the Occupy movement. They bailed out Wall Street.
So I was, the Keystone X, the pipeline and stuff was I mean, not as big a deal as protesters were making it out to be. Right, there's a good video by Jeff Holiday who goes into and sources all these the different reports and what the pipeline actually was. So there's a lot of mystics here, but yeah, I don't know how he shut down Occupy. I'm curious on what his argument is for shutting down Occupy.
You already had a government with Biden. What did he do? What did he achieve? Except ramping up the wars, killing more.
I mean, the ACA is one big achievement. Like I said, not everything got passed.
More people, deporting more people, doing nothing about mass incarceration. This is so disingenuous.
I mean, the Obama administration was pardoning a lot of people and was moving to get a lot of nonviolent offenders out of there. Now, it wasn't as much as what we wanted, right, in terms of fixing this stuff, but, I mean, he was doing those things in that administration, right? This is just kind of hand-waving away the differences, right? It's really shitty.
Genuous. Oh, the Supreme Court. Oh, voting down the ballot. Dude, you've already had 100 years and more to prove the worth of the Democratic Party. We've seen this before. We've seen this movie before. Or, oh, you got to vote for them because, the other guys are worse. They're always going to use this argument. It's just to put you in line. Get all the sheep in line and shut the fuck up. And if you...
So, a lot has changed in 100 years, right? Now, obviously, if you go back 100 years, the Democratic Party was, and the Republican parties were pretty switched on some of their views, so that's the thing, but there was a change there, right? After the Civil Rights Bill, there's, the New Deal, the Social Security, Medicare and Medicaid, right? So there's a lot of stuff that's changed over 100 years with the electoral politics, right? So I don't get this argument, right? Like, there's still issues and things that need to be fixed, but nobody's denying that. That's saying voting for Biden.
You vote third party, we're going to crucify you. You call that a democracy? These people work for Wall Street. The only goal is to help Wall Street and preserve the American empire. That's it. That's it. People think that, America is a country, it's a nation. That's it. We're all nations now. No. America's an empire. After 1945, the UK...
I mean, nobody that's supporting Biden, especially on the left, is denying this stuff, right? So this is a dumbass fucking argument, right? This is a straw man.
The British Empire was done for. Okay, you had all these anti-colonialist movements, independence movements all over the world, and they had been bankrupted by World War II and World War I. And you had a transfer of power. America became the new Western superpower, right? The UK basically handed off the imperialist torch to America. And they've been getting away with it under the guise of, we're a democracy. We're not an empire. What are you talking about? Dude, those 800 bases, the 20 aircraft carriers, that's just the regular military. America has 2 fucking armies. The private contractors, Blackwater, or whatever the hell they're called now, is 2 armies. This is all about hard power, about screwing over other countries. And if you step out of line, if you're an independent socialist country and you don't want to let our multinationals in to plunder your natural resources, we're going to come and fuck you up. Just like we did Saddam, just like we did Gaddafi. And then Morales, and now they're trying to do Maduro and Assad. Yada, yada, yada.
Just some of these things. I like how he's willing to dismiss human rights violations and stuff under some of these regimes, right? Because they're, leftist, socialist stuff. right, on his team. He's willing to let it go, right? A little bit of hypocrisy in there and stuff. And, there's no hypocrisy in my side because I know, hey, we do shitty stuff that we shouldn't be doing, right? We're not living up to the principles or any of the ideas that our system supports, right? And what we do, right? So, like, I don't disagree that we do shitty things around the world. That would continue under any socialist president, right? Just like shitty things are happening under socialist countries right now around the world with their citizens, right? It's not, but the argument would be it's better than the far right regimes and stuff that would be under there, the authoritarian dictators and stuff, right? And so even under a lesser two evils, things we'd put it there and deal with there. So he's not against the lesser two evils. It's just the evil's not on his team.
It's the same script over and over every administration. Fuck off. Go and fuck yourself. This is what people don't get. They think that, oh, this is just some brown dude. Oh, this is just some Arab. Who cares about the fucking Arabs? We're just bombing them. They think I'm just some other brown dude on the internet whining about a country they can't even put on a map. And you got people in my mentions on Twitter calling me a fucking sand nigger. That's how much they respect me, right? That's the level of respect.
Again, that's shitty. They shouldn't be doing that stuff, right? It's awfully racist. Now, I can't imagine much of that is coming from the Democratic supporters or the Biden supporters, right? So, I'd have to see evidence that it's coming from those Biden supporters that are calling you an SN bomb, right? So I think this, but and if it's not the Democratic supporters, it's like the Republicans, the far right, the conservatives and stuff in here. Maybe you should vote Democrat then, huh, bud? Right? If that kind of disrespect there, it's not uncommon to hear conservatives talk about glassing the Middle East, right? Drop a couple of nukes and turn the whole fucking thing into glass. Right now, I don't think many Republicans would do that, but certainly the people that vote for him are, and maybe voting against those people that are voting for those types of things, while not being perfect or improving stuff there, is a better improvement over what those things might happen, right? But this is the shitty thing to be righteous and indignation stuff. Like it's hilarious at this point.
Respect that I get because I want to tell you that please stop bombing my country. That's their response. No, you're a fucking idiot. You don't understand it. The money that they used to buy the bombs was yours. The money that they used to give those contracts to Boeing, to Raytheon, to the military-industrial complex could have gone towards things that benefit you, you fucking idiot. Healthcare for you. Roads for you. Infrastructure for you.
Yeah, some of that could come that way too, yeah. And I don't deny that. And I'm in favor of shrinking some of the military stuff, right? So I'm not against that. No, I don't think we need... we should have zero military or anything like that. No, that's silly. Still have to have some form of military, but yeah, it doesn't need to be what it is now, right? We don't need to be the world police kind of thing. So, I don't disagree that we could take some of that money and put it to better causes.
That's your money, and they're misappropriating it so they can make money for their buddies in the private sector. You fucking moron. Wake up, asshole. What is wrong with you? This ain't just about me. This ain't just about the brown people. Or as you like to call me again, the sand nigger.
Again, I'd like to see who supporting Biden has said that to you online, right? I would like to see that because that doesn't sound like something that would come up from somebody who supported Democrats. Even the moderate Democrats and stuff would say that stuff, So I'm interested to know, right? Evidence would be a nice Poppy. Is that what he calls himself, Poppy? I think it said, yeah, Poppy Chulaman.
Go fuck yourself, man. Have some fucking sense. It's your cash. It's your money. You paid that in taxes. It should be going towards you and your kids and your country. Not to Raytheon to buy cluster bombs and to Boeing to build B-52s. You fucking idiot. Go and fuck yourself, man. I'm not going to stop speaking about this. Other progressive pundits, they don't want to touch foreign policy. They don't want to talk about that because they think, oh yeah, that's, it's a touchy subject. No. This goes hand in hand. This is the biggest.
So what progressive pundits aren't talking about foreign policy stuff, right? It's a pretty big thing, the opposition to the Iraq war, the, things around, just in the war and intervention anyways, right? Progressive pundits don't not talk about that stuff. It's kind of weird,
biggest reason you don't have any of the nice things. Because America wants to maintain the empire. American imperialism. That's the goal, baby. You fucking moron. Who the fuck needs 800 bases? Who needs 20 aircraft carriers? Who needs a secret second army under Blackwater? I can't believe this. Like, you seeing how angry I am? You seeing my pain? And they just want to denigrate you.
Well, I'll denigrate you for being stupid, but I mean, you know, like I said, being stupid, being a liar, and stuff like that about things there, right? I get it. Be angry about that stuff. That stuff wants to change. Put pressure on there. Elect politicians that are more non-interventionist, right? Those are things we want to change. So push to do it there. But had Sanders gotten in, that stuff wouldn't have changed, or at least significantly enough to satisfy him. And Sanders' policy platform wouldn't have passed 100%. There would have been plenty of compromises, all this other things that you wouldn't have gotten everything that you wanted, right? And it might look closer to what you'd get from Biden, right? And at that point, is Bernie a sellout? Is Bernie not progressive because he didn't push through his stuff that couldn't be pushed through? Like, I don't get this. Like, you support democracy, but when democracy doesn't work your way, it's fuck democracy, right?
They just want to denigrate you. Like, yeah, why are you always cursing? Why are you so angry? Motherfucker, why aren't you angry? That's the question. Where's your moral compass? Where's your fucking sense? You ain't got no fucking conscience? Are you too scared to look at those pictures from Abu Ghraib? Are you too scared to see what happened in Syria? Are you too scared to look at the open slave trade markets they have in Libya now because it's a failed state because of what that fucking bitch Hillary Clinton did and Obama and Biden? Are you too scared to look at the truth? What's happening?
I mean, I'm not scared. But the idea is that it'd be less, those situations would be less bad. Now, obviously, the slave thing, Libya, that's directly an Obama thing, and that's, shit. Right?
With your fucking tax dollars? What's happening with your fucking representatives? What's happening with your fucking government? Are you too scared to face the truth? Because that foreign policy is using cash that could have been used to benefit you. And instead, you just want to ignore the issue because you're a fucking brainwashed idiot.
I'm not ignoring the issue. I wanted to improve that issue, which is not necessarily going to improve under, the war stuff under Republicans, especially the more neoconservative interventionist ones, right? But then that also ignores domestic policy, right? All foreign policy, and it's all you're going to focus on, all this, there. And ignore the vast differences in domestic policy is dumb as well too, right? In your analysis, it's incomplete.
Get the fuck out of my face, man. They want to implement the Monroe Doctrine. Oh, the white man knows best. No, your system doesn't work. Our system is better. We're gonna come and bomb the shit out of you so we can put our system, our companies, capitalism, democracy, which we don't even have in the fucking United States because we treat people of color like second and third class citizens, and we don't pay women their wages, and we lock up blacks and Latinos, and we rig the voting machines, and we make sure you don't even get the right ballots, and we make you go and vote.
Hey, where's the rigged voting machines, right? This costs rigged elections and stuff. The left needs to provide better examples of, right? And I have no idea what he's specifically referencing here, but he hasn't provided any evidence for rigging or anything like that.
During a pandemic, that democracy. What a fucking embarrassment. You're the last fucking country on earth to talk about human rights and democracy. Why don't you self-critique? Why don't you look in the fucking mirror instead of swallowing that bullshit from MSNBC? You dumb brainwashed sheep. Have some fucking sense, man. Have some fucking shame.
I mean, it's a good thing I have all those things. And that's why I'm going to end up voting for Biden. Right? It's just going to be what it is. Alrighty. So, that's the end of that one.